Hey yo guys, I'm back here to give you my thoughts on the whole WWE draft that took place, from Raw and the, 4-hour supplemental draft? The supplemental draft was way too long. This thing should have been 2 hours tops. Really, 4 hours? Like, Jesus Christ. I mean, I was on a message board and we were just laughing at how long this thing took. And some of the picks were just asinine, so anyways, I'll just give you my thoughts on the supplemental and the draft that took place on Raw. Really, and we all know the draft really doesn't mean anything, considering if you look at Smackdown this week, it's matches with guys that just got drafted to Raw versus, people from Smackdown, and the main event is a Raw guy versus a Raw guy, so what the fuck. Really don't. It just proves that the draft doesn't mean anything, but whatever. Let's just go through this. So here we go. The first draft pick, was the United States Champion MVP. I don't think MVP is going to do much on Raw. Really, I think MVP is a guy that's much better slated for a Smackdown type show. I think while he may have the U.S. Championship, will probably get lost in the shuffle. That's just my opinion. I don't think MVP's got that many places to go. My thoughts there. Then they had SmackDown's Big Show go to Raw. Big Show going to Raw, I mean, that's absolutely not a big deal at all. I mean, the man seems to be jumping shows between SmackDown and Raw ever since his whole draft thing has been started, even the time, he took off or whatever. But I guess it's to continue, this storyline, I guess, with, Vicky's mystery man without Edge being there. That's what I guess it could do, and I'm fine with that, but I mean, really, Big Show going was absolutely nothing. I mean, the draft on Raw sucked. Let's just put it that way. I mean, SmackDown's first pick was Melina. At the time, I'm thinking, you know what, Melina is fine. I mean, because SmackDown needs a Latino, and plus, she's a Latina female, which is something good. And then they could have potentially meshed the Diva and the Women's Championship together, but eventually down the line, since this is, the WWE being fucking stupid, they didn't do that at all. So then we went with, after Cena and Jack Swagger had, a hell of a good match, I should say that. And, that's good for Jack Swagger to be in, there was someone like Cena, while Cena may have, done a Rock-esque promo, kind of burying how Swagger's catchphrase, the All-American American. I think they had a nice little match. But anyways, then you had Matt Hardy get drafted to Raw. And I just think this is just ludicrous. Why is Matt Hardy going to Raw? Think about this. Matt Hardy probably thought there was no way in hell I'm getting drafted. He had, a match, maybe an hour tops before the show took place against Undertaker, which was supposed to be the Smackdown match for Superstars that debuts tomorrow on WGN. Then he looks at the board backstage and sees he's wrestling Punk. So, and plus he's still got a feud with Jeff. So he's clear like, I'm still going to be on SmackDown. But no, he's drafted to Raw, and, the feud clearly looks like it's going to be done by Backlash, as apparently they're having another match at Backlash, and looks like that's where Jeff gets his win in a very uneventful feud. Vince has pulled the plug once again on this feud. Which sucks, because I think this could have been a big thing. It just needed that. It didn't have that emphasis feel, but plus they rushed it because they're trying to do it the Bret Nolan thing, but they didn't have much time. I've mentioned this many a time. They didn't have the time to do it, so that's what I have there. And then we have Triple H getting drafted to Raw. Whoop-de-doo. The man had been on Raw for a month or 2 months tops. A big deal. We all knew the man wanted to go back. He clearly hated it on SmackDown, being on the, show without the ratings, and thinks that he's, the biggest draw in the company because I'm Triple H. So that happened there. Then you had CM Punk get drafted to SmackDown. I think, this is maybe a year late. I thought Punk would be a much better SmackDown guy. As, Punk definitely, on SmackDown you get more in-ring time than Raw. Yeah, he made the championship on Raw and had one of the most uneventful title runs in company history, but still, I think SmackDown's a better place for him. Michael Hayes knows how to book wrestlers, and he's a wrestler's wrestler, so I'm fine with Punk being there. And he's got the Money in the Bank briefcase thing. I don't think that really makes any sense for him to go on some show. He'd probably show up on Raw and cash in the briefcase, but that's where I see this thing happen. I'm really happy that Punk's on Raw, or SmackDown, I should say, as I think SmackDown's the perfect show for CM Punk. Then you had, after You gave The Miz and Kofi Kingston, like, all this time. Now, I'm not knocking them for having a good match, because they really did have a good match. You gave them the most time, some of the most time in a match, when you cut short Evan Bourne and Rey Mysterio, which just, why? I mean, that could have been an extra match. That could have made this show feel, good. Really good. But no, you cut that short and you give, Kofi and Miz, who, while they, Miz really developed into a good worker, and Kofi, over this month has, really stepped up his game. Why are they getting the most time? There was, like, not as much, like, the heat was there and then it just went away. They're like, can't believe this is getting that much time. We don't care anymore. The finish was weird, but in the story of, Morrison DQing Miz, and then they screwed up their tag team. So, and then after that you had Miz hit the reality check on Morrison, and I'm like, well, you're turning Miz even more heel than Morrison, but whatever. To me, I think they put, and then, Miz got drafted to Raw, and to me, I think they put the wrong one on Raw, as Morrison, I think, is the bigger star potential. I like his promo style, and he's definitely the better in the ring than Miz. So I think I would have put him more on Raw. But we'll see what they do with Miz, as, they drafted eventually. I know I'm skipping place. They drafted Maruse. I think you could team them up and they could be a nice little combination together. Then you got Kane drafted to SmackDown. Whatever. You know what? Kane on SmackDown is better, because Kane on Raw was just such a bore. I mean, Kane would be there on Raw. You'd just be like, God, can Kane get over with? I'm sick of the Kane character, but I think Kane on SmackDown, for some reason, it works a lot better. Yeah, Jericho get drafted to SmackDown as well. I think Jericho, now since, Raw just got super loaded with talent, is fine on SmackDown. I mean, there's now that maybe a nice little dynamic between him and Edge as, two heels together. Plus, now you can actually maybe do a full program with Punk and Jericho. A Jeff Hardy, Chris Jericho program. I think there's a lot of potential there for Chris Jericho on SmackDown. I really like him there. I think he would definitely been lost in the shuffle. Like, yeah, Raw doesn't really have that many heels anymore, but it clearly looks like they could turn Triple H or a maybe Batista heel, or the McMahon's heel. So that's where I would go with that. So I'm happy with that. SmackDown. Then ECW gets their first and only pick on the show, and they get Kozlov, so really they didn't get any picks. So we'll move along here. Couldn't they have sent this man to, couldn't they have drafted him to Future Endeavored? That would have been better for me and everyone else, but whatever, he's on ECW. Then we had Maruse get drafted, and I'm like, why are you drafting her? Is she really all that important to be drafted on this show? You could have drafted someone important, like, I don't know, Cena to SmackDown, or something like that. Whenever she comes out, I personally think the Maruse, obviously Maruse Melina switch, we're looking at it, in-ring wise, it's horrible for Raw, because Maruse is not that good in the ring. But character-wise, I think Maruse is probably the best character in the WWE of the Divas. I mean, that cocky, I'm better than you girl. So I like that type of character. But, I mean, I'm still disappointed they didn't unify the Diva title with the women's title, because why do you need two women's titles? And that's just my thoughts really there. I guess the company really should maybe in the summer start cutting some of these blondes, because there are way too many blonde girls in this company. It is unbelievable. So that's just my thoughts there. And the final pick was Rey Mysterio going to SmackDown, and this was one of the most obvious ones. Rey really did nothing on Raw. He was supposed to, increase the Latino market on Raw. That really didn't happen, so they send him back to SmackDown, which to me, I think SmackDown's definitely the better choice for him. He can wrestle there more. He's going to get more time on TV because he's big with the Latinos, especially on SmackDown, and the Latinos more watch SmackDown than Raw for some. And I think it's, good there overall. Rey on Raw really did nothing. Rey on SmackDown's the best place for him. And you can do, a Jericho-Rey feud as well. So, whatever. Redo a Edge-Rey feud. No problem with that. Even maybe a Punk-Rey tag team. I don't know. I'm just thinking out the top of my head here. So then we went to this supplemental draft. Jesus Christ, did this thing go on forever. I thought this was 2 hours. It turned out to be another 2 hours. It was 4 hours. 4 hours of my life I'm really not going to get back. Now, in the long run, when this thing started, this thing was so bad it wasn't even funny. The supplemental draft was really, really bad. It was worse than the show, and I thought that was hard to do. I really thought that the draft on Raw was really bad. It was a waste of time. You got nothing. You know, the matches, yeah, some of them were good. Your Cena Swagger matches were good. Your Kofi Kingston Miz one was good. Your main fucking boring with the stupid handicap match with the fucking heels at the disadvantage, which, no, that is not why you have a handicap match. So then we go to this supplemental draft. Like I said, 4 hours, way too long. Cut this thing by at least 2 hours, WWE. Make it to from noon to 2 tops. That's as far as you can go. Anyways, and then you just are like, what the hell was wrong with them? Like, I don't know why they decided to make some of these moves. We'll go through them one by one here. So the first one was SmackDown's Mr. Kennedy getting drafted to Raw. And I know, like, 50 or 95% of the people were like, he was on SmackDown? Yeah, he had 1 match or 2 on SmackDown, and then he took Shelton's pay dirt finish on a house show and destroyed his arm. And broke it severely. So now he's drafted back to Raw, and what happened last time he was on Raw? Oh yeah, really nothing. So that's what I would expect to really happen. Are you going to do a Kennedy and MVP feud for the US belt? Maybe. I don't know. That could be a potential thing, but really, Kennedy back to Raw. Okay. Anyways, then we went and saw Shad get drafted to SmackDown, and this is the start of them fucking up tag teams. I mean, they fucked tag teams like the whole draft up until the end where they reunite them, so let's not jump on my words here. They do eventually do something smart towards the end. So save their draft, okay? The supplemental draft was shit up until they started saving the tag teams that they had. Anyways, so they draft Shad to SmackDown. I'm like, why are you breaking up one of your, most popular teams that you've done nothing with? Absolutely nothing. And now he's over there to SmackDown. I'm fine. He could have been a dominant big man, maybe a heel turn, but I really don't know what they could have done with that. Definitely better suited to be with JTG, and he eventually is. So then Alicia Fox goes over to SmackDown, which I'm fine with, but clearly that's the end of DJ Gabriel. I bet you in a week or two, DJ Gabriel will be future endeavored. That's it. That's really like the DJ Gabriel gimmick was dancing. They just want to see Alicia Fox, dance. DJ Gabriel could not wrestle to save his life, so Alicia Fox goes to SmackDown. Whatever. She can't wrestle either, but maybe you could team her up with someone to manage. I don't know, but they definitely need to do something like that. Don't let her talk, because when we heard her at that, that 3-hour Slammy Raw where she buried Joey Stotts, please God, don't let her talk. So then, here we go. Then they did the stupidest thing, in my opinion, you do, of a draft. Up until they save it, once again, until they save it, you had Primo get drafted to Raw. He gets drafted to the show he really should still be on. If you remember, he debuted on Raw and was mysteriously on SmackDown somehow, teaming with Carlito. After they were, gonna do a feud between the two, but whatever. And I'm like, how can a unified tag team champion be drafted? They should be able to work all the shows. Like when they first did this brand split, the world champion and the women's champion were supposed to work both shows. That's what this is. The tag team champions, the whole company. It should not be drafted to a show. What the hell? Anyways, then SmackDown gets the first, to me, impressive pick. They get Mike Knox. A lot of people were like, oh, that sucks that Mike Knox has got drafted to SmackDown. To me, Mike Knox really can work. He got lost in the shuffle on Raw. SmackDown is going to be a great place for him. I think Michael Hayes will have a really strong direction with him. I think there's definitely going to be Mike Knox Undertaker feud, which would be awesome. I think, I don't think Mike Knox will have Vader Undertaker chemistry. I think he can have, good big man chemistry with Undertaker. And, there's always that potential maybe of a Punk Knox feud. I don't know. That's just my opinion there. And then ECW gets their second pick, and who do they get? Ezekiel Jackson. So they've once not only buried Ezekiel Jackson on SmackDown going into WrestleMania, then the shovel got even deeper the dirt got even deeper on Raw when Kane just kicked him in the mouth and he was down the whole match. Now you bury him and Brian Kendrick by splitting them up. One of the most popular things to me on SmackDown. And they just stopped because Brian Kendrick didn't want to take direction. So that's it for Brian Kendrick, really. He eventually does get drafted. He gets to Raw. Expect to see Brian Kendrick in PWG by the summer. That's all I can say. Really, why are you drafting Ezekiel Jackson? The man is terrible in the ring. He's much better as a presence. He needs a lot more time to develop in, in FCW. Please help him. I mean, just the mere presence of a Kozlov-Jackson match scares the crap out of me. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Then we had then we had Nikki Bella get drafted to Raw, and I'm like, wait a minute. Whoa. You decided to break this team up, then they reunited on WWE.com, which, nobody saw except maybe me, and then you decided to split them up again. What? This was TNA for the first portion of this draft. I swear to God, this company was scarily turning into TNA. And then you had Candice Michelle go to SmackDown. Really, that's nothing. Candice has not worked well since coming back from her second injury. She hasn't been the same person. Hopefully she can, maybe be an interviewer or something. Maybe she'll be in the ring again. I don't know, but we'll see. Then you had Zack Ryder get drafted to ECW. This was basically the draft of the tag teams. That's what it was. That is their whole momentum, thought right now. Fuck you tag teams. That's what I called it. The fuck you tag team draft. Because they split up Miz and Morrison, which, maybe it should have happened, but it was the best tag team you had in years. Then you split up Crime Time, one of the most potential you got of a tag team. Then you split up your tag team that you had in your tag team champions. Why were you doing this? This made no sense to me. Why are you saying fuck you to tag teams when you look at your company history, some of the most successful things have come from tag teams? I don't understand the logic in this. Jesus Christ. And then we got probably the second most, or maybe actually the first storyline logical draft with Chavo going to Raw. Makes perfect sense because he's going to be reunited with Vicky. Whatever. Layla goes to SmackDown. SmackDown, basically in this draft, is Shimmer. It's basically got a couple good heels, a good cruiserweight wrestler in Ray, and Shimmer. It is Shimmer, okay? But I'm excited to watch SmackDown when we get to the end of it. Ricky Ortiz went to SmackDown. Wow. What has Ricky Ortiz done? I thought he was going to get drafted back to the XFL. Honestly, what I thought. This was just a pointless... Is he really that worthy to be in this 4-hour draft? Couldn't he have stayed on ECW and continued the storyline with Tiffany? Or I guess they've clearly changed their minds on that, and now Tiffany has eyes for frickin' Jack Swagger. So, yeah. And then this is the most illogical draft. Okay? This is the most illogical draft. Raw drafted Hornswoggle. Like, keep this in mind. This is supposed to be, we all know but also apparently that the general managers, they're at this round table, they're thinking, if I'm a general manager, there's HBK still on the table, there's Undertaker on the table. At this point, there's still, John Morrison. Now I'm going to take Hornswoggle. What is he going to do on Raw? Finlay is not there. What is he going to do? Someone, I swear to God, had better get owned every night. What is he going to do? He's going to be making run-ins under the ring again? What the hell is Hornswoggle going to do? This was just the most illogical draft choice in the history of the draft. Starting from 2002, the most illogical draft choice ever. Horrible. But then the draft, somehow from this point, once it hit rock bottom, like the economy eventually will, it rose. We had D.H. Smith getting drafted from Florida Championship Wrestling to ECW. And I'm like, holy shit, this is a big move because we have Tyson Kidd and D.H. Smith, so they're going to have a tag team. So the company at this point had 3 tag teams of Priceless, Jesse and Festus, and now, the New Heart Foundation. So I was like, yes! Then you had John Morrison get drafted to SmackDown, another good heel, another good worker, a Morrison and Ray feud. Great. A Morrison and Punk feud again. Great. I was happy. He's on the wrong show in my opinion, but now he's on a show that he gets to work on. Great. And then you had Carlito get drafted to Raw. Great. You reunited a tag team. I'm happy. A smart move. Then you had Festus go to Raw. Okay, whatever. He'll get lost in the shuffle. Then you had Natalya get drafted to ECW. Yes, this was great. Because now there's going to be a new faction on ECW. There's clearly, it honest to God looks like the New Heart Foundation, which this company has hyped up for more than 2 years. It was supposed to be D.H. Smith and Teddy Hart, but Teddy Hart's a jackass and got fired. And now he's in Mexico, basically doing a Hart Foundation 2.0 with Jack Evans, which I bet will be better than this, but... Then now you have this with Tyson Kidd, D.H. Smith, Natalya. I am happy with this. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Please do this and make it, one of the focal points of this ECW. Then we had JTG go to Smackdown. Great! Now you can go work the black market. You have a hot tag team that you will probably work with. I like this. Then you had Dolph Ziggler go to Smackdown. Another young heel. Something you can do with him. Yes! Oh my, how this Smackdown then got workers. Then you had Brian Kendrick go to Raw. Like I said, PWG in the summer, and this point is clearly there. Raw's Charlie Haas to Smackdown. Great! I was so happy when this happened. Because Charlie Haas is a great worker and never got the chance to do that. He was doing stupid rip-off gimmick things. Great, he's on SmackDown. He gets to work again. I'm happy. Hurricane Helms to ECW. Great, a Hurricane Helms heel turn and a Hurricane Helms Evan Bourne feud. Awesome. Oral Bourne and Helms versus the Hart Foundation. Yes. And then Brie Bella got drafted to Raw. So this was kind of like TNA, but they fixed it. I mean, this is the quickest, I swear to God, must be the fastest breakup, reunite in the history of pro wrestling. This is quicker than Vicky and Edge and Angle and Karen Angle in TNA. Like, I've already been through this. So that was the draft. The supplemental draft, flaws, way too long. The first, 2 hours were a waste of life when they were drafting no-name people and no one important went. And then you just towards the end, why wasn't they towards the end at the beginning? I'd have had faith. You could have turned the draft off from then on. You knew it was good. You saved it, WWE. Thank you. That's it for me. I am out. Peace.